Hey, good morning, everyone. I want to talk to you first off about the whole Trump audio. You might have heard this audio released of Trump talking about these Iran leaked documents and how it's going to be the thing that finally throws him in jail. Trump is over. They got him this time. And how the whole thing just blew up in their faces yet again. Funny enough, actually, CBS helped blow it up, but let me explain. The Gateway Pundit has this. We'll go into a few other things as well. It was all a lie. Dirty Jack Smith leaked Trump Milley audio to fake news to taint jury pool and smear Trump, but it is not part of the bogus indictments against Trump. Let me show you. It says, for a week, Special Counsel Jack Smith has been leaking allegations to the lemming media on alleged classified information on a report discussed by President Trump to his associates and written by dummy Mark Milley, who surrendered Afghanistan to the Taliban and turned over $80 billion in U.S. weapons to the terrorist group. I would argue that I think Milley probably has a bit of a vendetta personally against Trump because Trump called him an expletive idiot. Trump actually called him names because Trump was saying when he was still president, Milley advised him to also pull out from Afghanistan and to abandon all of our military equipment there. And Trump concluded that he was a moron. And Trump said as much during a public speech, actually, about Milley. What happens then? This document written by Milley looks like it's going to be one of those classified documents on Trump. And Trump, of course, was caught on audio talking about the existence of said document. What happens then? Jack Smith, brought on as a special counsel, leaks that audio to the press. And people are then wondering, well, isn't he a special counsel? How could the Department of Justice even allow that to happen? How can you have leaks taking place from within an ongoing investigation when someone is facing charges for a crime and the Justice Department is allowing leaks to take place that will taint the jury pool? The jury is going to believe things exist. The jury is going to believe things are incriminating. The jury is going to assume guilt when they go to, decide the innocence or guilt of the individual that they're asked to, asked to, participate in the trial of. Now, what happens with Trump? Well, let me show you. It says Milley wrote a letter to his invasion plans into Iran. This is Milley, right? That included the deployment of a massive number of troops into the Islamic State. This was obviously not taken seriously by President Trump or his staff. Trump was the first U.S. president in decades to keep the U.S. out of any new wars. This recent leak by dirty special counsel Jack Smith involved Mark Milley and some nonsense he wrote about invading Iran. You could say, what if they leaked Milley's advisement, his advisory, that Trump should leave Afghanistan and abandon all of our military equipment there? What if that were to leak and Biden hadn't done it? Well, you'd be like, Trump wanted to abandon military equipment in Afghanistan. Trump wanted to leave Afghanistan and abandon all of our military equipment to give it to the Taliban. That would have been the narrative, just drawing comparisons here, had this been applied the other way, because Milley was proposing one thing, and the thing that Milley proposed was painted as Trump proposing it. Trump wanted to invade Iran. Trump did not want to invade Iran. Milley had a plan to invade Iran. Trump did not accept Milley's thing, and Trump doubted the intelligence of Milley. But it says further in, the recent leak, the DOJ has been leaking the so-called classified information on the case to the mainstream media for weeks, and I'm sure many of you have heard this. I'm sure you've heard the news that all this information, it's incriminating against Trump. There is evidence that Trump is talking about the existence of classified material. He admits on audio that he has it. And when Trump is standing trial for this, charge, essentially, well, it looks pretty bad. It looks like Trump admitted guilt. But lo and behold, what happened? Well, it says here, then on Monday, Jack Smith leaked the audio to CNN to smear President Trump and taint the jury pool. The CNN report went viral, and then it says legal expert and author Mark Levin called for Jack Smith to be jailed following his latest leak. And then what happened? Well, the whole thing blew up in their faces. And funny enough, CBS News, go figure. It says, according to CBS News, the Milley memo on Iran is not part of the 31 counts of willful retention on national defense information charged in special counsel Jack Smith's indictment of the former president. You get what happened? The information they leaked looks incriminating, but that is not what he is being charged with. The audio that was leaked to the press by the special counsel bringing the charges on the things that look like they're laid out in that leaked document, that document is actually not part of the charges against Trump. Meaning, you could argue that Jack Smith is not, for example, releasing evidence on the case, but he is releasing evidence on the periphery of the case that look like it create an image of guilt on the individual who's trying to bring charges against. I mean, this is ridiculous stuff. Absolutely insane stuff that I think you would never see in an honest legal system. This is a perfect example, I think, of the weaponization of the Department of Justice and the reason why many people want to have charges or even a removal from office of, again, Attorney General Merrick Garland. Things exactly like this, that he's allowing this to take place. He's allowing Special Counsel Jack Smith to behave in such a way. And, of course, Special Counsel Jack Smith has a history of being a Trump hater and also has a history of politicized prosecutions. Now, that being said, I think this is also going to harm the other side more than it's going to harm Trump. I think Trump supporters are not going to change their votes regardless of any of this. Already, I think the whole case is blown up in their faces. But I think because they want to get a guilty charge, they're doing things like this to try to, as Gateway Pundit suggests, taint the jury pool. But I think this is also an example, funny enough, of what the left is accusing Trump of doing. There's something about Trump. I don't know what it is, but he has the tendency to make people freak out, to lose their cool. He has the tendency to make people who have very polished veneers, these very glossy masks that they hide behind, to make them just fall off their faces, and everybody sees them for exactly what they are. All the people, all the news outlets, all the journalists, all the politicians, all the individuals who spent decades, painting their faces. For some reason, Trump had the ability to make them all break character. Trump had the ability to make them all lose their cool, to get all shook up. It's an interesting trait Trump has. I cannot fully describe how he does it. But funny enough, there was even it was a couple months ago. The media was actually criticizing Trump for this. They were like, Trump baits people into freaking out, basically. And they were blaming the extreme reactions to Trump, and including people doing things that should be called illegal. They were blaming it on Trump. It's like if you were in middle school arguments and the bully punches a kid in the face because they argue that his face is just too punchable. That's the kind of narrative they're using. I just hate his stupid face. And that's the logic they're using with this, that their ridiculous and insane behavior is justified because of their deep, uncontrollable hatred brought to the surface by this individual. Bizarre stuff, but just making the point, it's blowing up in their faces. Now, there's a bit more to this I want to show you. Actually, maybe I'll go over on Epoch TV some stuff about smart cities. I actually meant to do that first, but I want to talk about this. When we jump over to Epoch TV, I'll go over what's happening with smart cities and actually how it's being rolled out as a social control program. But while we're on the note of Trump, let me read you one other thing, then I'll talk about it a little bit. Jean Caroll, the woman accusing Trump of rape, the one who says that Trump raped her in a bathroom or a changing room at a very, very expensive clothing store next to Trump Hotel. The one who says rape is sexy, that one. The one whose case was past the statute of limitations, but the state of New York changed the law and gave a 1-year window for her to charge Trump, to press charges regardless of the case being past the statute of limitations. And then she brought charges in a civil lawsuit, and then the court in New York found Trump guilty. That Jean Caroll. Well, Trump is filing charges against her for defamation now. And this is interesting because I think outside New York, outside the state of New York, I don't think her case can hold water. New York is a very unique place when it comes to rape accusations. And why is that? Because of the Me Too movement and because of the way that whole thing went. An allegation, if you accuse someone, the accusation itself counts as evidence. So you could argue that you can make a claim without evidence. Someone could claim a robbery took place. Someone could claim a battery took place. Someone could claim a rape took place. And if there is no evidence whatsoever, there is nothing, no video, no documents, no police charges filed, as in the case of E. Jean Caroll, nothing. Even the case doesn't make logical sense. But regardless of that, there is evidence. And what is the evidence? The evidence is the accusation. Now, in New York, that means you are guilty until proven innocent. When it comes to Me Too type accusations, New York is under Napoleonic law, meaning you have to prove your innocence. You are assumed guilty until you prove your innocence because the accusation itself is regarded as evidence of guilt. The bar is then in your court to prove that you are not guilty based on the evidence presented against you. Now, outside of New York, that's not going to hold up. Outside of New York, normally the accusation itself does not count as evidence. And outside of New York, it's going to be much more difficult to make that case. Trump has now brought this case in a way that is going after her. And it says here, turning the tables in his accuser, former President Donald Trump has hit back at E. Jean Caroll with a defamation lawsuit, saying she falsely accused him of rape. And it says this countersuit comes after a civil jury found him guilty of sexual abuse and defamation, but not rape in May. Now, Trump also filed this in Manhattan, so we'll see how it goes. And he seeks a retraction as well as compensatory and punitive damages yet to be specified, according to the Guardian, meaning he wants her to pay up, just to pay money for it. We'll see how that goes. But he's fighting fire with fire, legal warfare against legal warfare. One of the reasons, actually, why people tend to like Trump, that Trump is a fighter. He doesn't die. He just gets angry. He gets angrier. He doesn't retreat into the shadows. He just gets more mad, and he tends to counterattack. Some people dislike that about his character. Personally, it's what I like most about him, actually, that he doesn't just retreat into the shadows when he's attacked. All right, folks, that says jump over to Epoch TV, and I want to talk about smart homes and how they're being weaponized, including listening to you. And there's a case now of a guy who was driving his car, and his smart device picked up audio, and because it picked up audio that it interpreted as being racist, this guy was locked out of his smart home. Like, this is worse than the CBDC, the centralized bank digital currency. This is worse than the digital currencies. Imagine like you have a smart refrigerator and a smart blender and a smart microwave, and you have your CBDC, centralized bank digital currency, and your smart car, and you're in your home and maybe the TV's on and it says like a racist word, and it picks it up. One of your smart devices picks up the audio and thinks you said it. And then suddenly, like, all your food spoils, or maybe your refrigerator doesn't open, and your car doesn't start, and your blender doesn't turn on. Maybe your alarm clock stops working. This happened to a guy. And there is a politician in Australia warning that this is the next step. Next pandemic, it's not going to be mask mandates and vaccine mandates, or, you're going to get fired from your job. It's going to be mask mandates or vaccine mandates, or you're not going to be able to live in society. Let me show you. We'll jump over to Epoch TV for that. And folks, thank you for joining us on Epoch TV. By the way, if you're on YouTube, link in the description. Come join us. Let me show you this first. Australia.